morning, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Pat Murray. I'm President and CEO of Bristol County Savings Bank. And what a great day to be down here on the waterfront in New Bedford. John, we're finally here. Believe it or not, the newest bank to the greater New Bedford area is actually 171 years old. Bristol County Savings Bank is headquartered in Taunton, where we were incorporated back in 1846. It took us a number of years to get down here to New Bedford, and actually we came into New Bedford back in, anybody want to guess when we opened up our Ashley Boulevard office? No, we don't count. But we've actually been here since 2010, when we opened up our office on Ashley Boulevard. We then followed that up with an office out on Rockdale Avenue, and we've been looking in the downtown area since day one. Several years ago, I was appointed to the Mayor's Regeneration Committee, and with the help of Derek Santos and his group, as well as the mayor and his team, we've been looking for an area in the downtown for years, and we are finally here in a building that, believe it or not, was a bank at one particular time. In fact, a couple of our employees worked in this particular office in previous careers, so we're very, very, very happy to be coming into the Candleworks building here in New Bedford. And we would like to thank the owner, Al Santos, who unfortunately could not be with us this morning, for his support in bringing Bristol County Savings Bank to downtown New Bedford. This is a very, very important market to us. And Len Sullivan, our senior lender, is going to get up in a few minutes and tell you why. But the deposits that we've brought into the bank in New Bedford since coming here in 2010 are strong. In fact, represent 16% of the bank's total deposits. Not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah. And as I mentioned, we've been working for a long time to try to come here to downtown New Bedford. Being on the waterfront, where we think the fishing industry is very, very important. Being in the downtown area, where we have several customers already. And I'm sure Lenny will tell you a little funny story in a little bit about why we wanted to be in the greater downtown area, but also be on right in front of the fishing industry. I'd also like to thank our architect, Studio 2 Sustain, from right here in New Bedford. Catherine, I know I saw Catherine somewhere this morning. There she is. Thank you so much. You can see what this building's going to look like right here. Here's what Bristol County Savings Bank looked like back in 1846 in Taunton. Here's the building that we're moving into down here in New Bedford. Don't they look almost the same? You know, there's so many similarities between New Bedford and Taunton, and we're so proud as a community bank to be here. I'd also like to recognize Alan Whitaker from AP Whitaker, who's going to be our contractor. Oh, there he is, right there, Alan. Another southeastern Massachusetts contractor, so we try to keep things within the community, which is tremendous. The bid was actually awarded yesterday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and when we called Alan, we said, by the way, what are you doing tomorrow morning? So glad to have you here today, Alan, and thank you very much. We look forward to working with you again. As you can see, there's a rendering back here as to what this particular parking lot is going to turn into, including what used to be designed to be an outbuilding that used to be on the wharf, will be our drive-up. This will be a self-sustained drive-up. In fact, we're putting in what is known as ITM, interactive teller machines, so that when you pull up to the drive-up, it can be used as an ATM, but also as a drive-up, completely self-sustained. If you want to talk to a banker, you just push a button and you're talking to a banker. You could be talking to a banker eventually 24/7. So if you want to drive up to our drive-up at 3 o'clock in the morning, apply for a loan, someday you will be able to do that in the not too distant future. And that's what I want to talk about a little bit this morning, how banking is changing. And it is changing so fast. I became president just over 5 years ago. I didn't have any gray hair at all back then. So it is changing so fast. We're trying with this particular branch to meet the demands of our traditional customers that still want to come in and talk to somebody with the new demands of what technology is bringing to banking. So this branch has been will be designed to meet both of those constituents. First floor, right above Carmine's, we're going to have the branch. Second floor will be both commercial and residential lending space, as well as a community room that any community organization in the city is more than welcome to use. I mentioned the state-of-the-art technology. This will be a bank branch like no other branch office Bristol County Savings Bank has. It'll be our first branch of the future, if you will, but it will also be designed for traditional customers that want to come in, do their transactions with the tellers, open accounts, apply for a loan, come in for financial advice. It will be our 16th full-service branch and our 3rd branch in New Bedford. I mentioned Derek Santos before in his help with trying to help find a place downtown, but one of the main catalysts for bringing Bristol County Savings Bank downtown is Jon Mitchell. And at this point, Jon, thank you so much. We've put a lot of time into trying to get here, and we are finally here. So at this point, I would like to introduce the mayor and ask him to say a few words.
All right, good morning, everybody. So I'd like to begin with a request, and that is, for those of you who have invested in the New Bedford Whaling Museum one way or the other in the last few years, stay away from James Russell. He's about to drag you and all of your interest over to Nantucket with him. He's trying to poach already, day one of his new job. Anyway, I wanted to congratulate James on his big move, though. He's been hugely instrumental in making the museum a success over the last 10 years. So I want to thank him publicly. You'll have time for a victory lap. No, it's not working.
I can hear you.
Yeah, who needs? Let's do this. Let's do this. Yeah. All right. You're still attached here. Perfect. All right. Much more intimate this way. All right. So anyway, there are lots of people to thank, and I have to say that one of my roles in this position is to be not just the chief executive, not just the cheerleader in chief, but really the nag in chief. And so Pat can certainly testify to the fact that I've been bugging him for a while to set up shop in a big way in the downtown, and so today I get to say thanks, and of course right what comes after that is what's next, but we'll save that for another day. But I can't thank the commitment of Bristol County Savings Bank under Pat's leadership, under Dennis's leadership, before him, to the lifeblood of the city. This is the commercial center of southeastern Massachusetts. This is the commercial hub, this is the cultural hub, and this is the place where we need to continue to double down. And so Bristol County's commitment to the downtown is enormously significant in that way. Downtown is the place for banks, and downtowns don't succeed unless they can attract capital in every respect, but banks are really the biggest downtown anchors of all, in every downtown, not just in America and everywhere else. And so it's really important to our overall economic development strategy, that we have the presence of commercial lenders like Bristol County. And it's look, the bank's success speaks for itself. It's growing. It's got a great brand. It's got great leadership. It's got a strong board, and its deposits are way up in Greater New Bedford. It's really worked up to 16%. I didn't realize that, Pat. 16% of the deposits are coming from here, and it's only bound to grow in the years ahead as this goes into full operation, prominently right here in front of the waterfront. So where so much is happening these days. So I really want to thank you and Dennis and Michelle for your commitment to the city. I want to thank all the board members and the leadership team. I want to thank, by the way, Jack Silva, who just shortened his commute to about 100 feet.
Not working in this.
When he's not working, he's going to be showing up in his bathrobe some days. Just but a great all-around effort. I know that the elected leadership in the community is very appreciative. Tony Cabral, the state rep for this area and a huge proponent of downtown, is certainly of like mind with me that these are the kinds of investments that yield a very strong multiplier of other businesses. So, because we know that when you have people in town who are coming in for a loan, you're going to take them out to downtown New Bedford restaurants, and they're going to stay at Richard LaFrancis. Oh, where's Richard? They're going to stay at Richard's Hotel and spend more money here. In that way, I want to thank Derek Santos and all the folks at the EDC. Joan Alman is here. There's some, I don't know if any other EDC board members are here, but in any event, great team effort in that way. I want to thank my good friend Catherine Duff for her great work, and Pat's design ethic and the board's design ethic that led them to pick Catherine, which was very appropriate for this spot in the downtown. She knows the design features of the downtown as well as anybody, and so I know it's going to look great. This is, as I've said before, this particular area in many ways is New Bedford's front porch. It looks out on the waterfront. This waterfront, the central waterfront, is where Greater New Bedford emerged in the 1760s. It's really the epicenter of this entire region. And now that you're looking out on all of that, your brand, your work will even be more prominent and be more central to the economic vitality of the region. So, congratulations on a job well done, Pat, and we really appreciate not only this investment, but of course all the good works that you do through the foundation in New Bedford over the last few years and then the years to come. So, guys, thanks very much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor. Really appreciate those kind words and all your support, and believe me, you were never a nag during the whole process. I'd also like to thank all the other elected officials in attendance today. Tony, thank you very much for your attendance, and everybody else that is here as well. Just a quick story, a couple months ago, both Tony and Paul Schmidt came to the office and asked us if we'd if we would participate in the State Reps Cup. A golf tournament that is held, that is with all the proceeds going directly to charity. We said right off the bat, yes, we'd love to be involved, and we'd be the title sponsor. So it was the first time that we were really ever involved in this particular tournament, and we won it. So congratulations to everybody that made that happen as well. A few other people, speaking of, I shouldn't say nagging, but one of the reasons that we are here in New Bedford today is the persistence of both the board of directors and the corporators of the bank. As many of you know, Bristol County Savings Bank is a mutual bank, which really means we don't have any stockholders. So we really use what would normally be a dividend that would be paid back to our stockholders, and we pay that dividend to our stakeholders. Who is our stakeholder? The community. And back in 1996, the bank formed a charitable foundation, and we are today approaching over $2 million a year that is given back to nonprofit agencies doing really, really good things in the communities we serve. And I'm not going to steal too much of Michelle's thunder because she's going to talk about that in a couple of minutes. But one of the reasons that we came down to New Bedford was really due to my predecessor, who was president of the bank at the time, and also now chairman of the board, and that's Dennis Kelly. Dennis had the foresight of moving into this market, and that's one of the biggest reasons we are here today. So Dennis, thank you for that. So speaking of nagging, there are 13 people on the board of directors of Bristol County Savings Bank, and 6 of them either live or work right here in the Greater New Bedford area. So yeah, as you can see, we might be a Taunton-based bank, but we are right down here active day in and day out within the community, and we have members of our board, a pretty good sized members of our board that actually live or have their businesses right here. A few other people from the board that I'd like to introduce this morning and thank them for that. Gene McCormick, retired Chancellor of UMass Dartmouth. Joe Norman, nice. Joe's over here, Executive Vice President of General Counsel of the Kushner Company. And Mike Tamburo, who is Vice Chairman of the Pawtucket Red Sox, is actually drove down from Rhode Island today to be here as well. We also are governed, since we don't have stockholders, who governs the bank? Who elects the board to do what they do? And we have what is known as corporators. And corporators are basically depositors of the bank that represent all other depositors. And we have approximately 100 corporators. Believe it or not, in just the short time of period we've been in New Bedford and the South Coast, 25% of our corporators are now from this region. So you can see, we really want to be your local community bank. A few of the corporators that are with us today, I know I saw Corinne Santos who, in the back. Thank you, Corinne. Earlier this morning, I came down and had breakfast at Tia Maria's, and I think everybody from New Bedford was in there this morning. So, actually, we saw Jack Silva walk by on the sidewalk. So, but I'd also like to introduce the senior management team from Bristol County Savings Bank that is in attendance this morning. First, Len Sullivan, our first Executive Vice President and Senior Loan Officer. Resident of Mattapoisett, right down the street. Dennis Leahy, our Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. Holly Lucia, who's our Executive Vice President, General Counsel and Chief Risk Officer. And Michelle Roberts, who's Executive Vice President and Community Relations Officer. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Len Sullivan, and he can tell you a little bit more about why we're here in New Bedford today, and introduce members of the staff as well. Money.
Once we get our adjustments done, I'll be ready. Thank you very much. It's kind of funny standing up here because being second or third down the pole, I hear I'm going to tell a story, which I didn't know I was telling. So I'll have to think up a good story for that one. But first off, I want to let everybody know, and everybody know, if you come to that ITM at 3 in the morning, push the button for a loan, you will not be talking to me. I promise I will not be on the other end of that line. I really wanted a seat in here, but they told me I had to stand outside to count the cars going by for potential customers. We're doing real well, so we'll be all set. So welcome everybody. As Pat mentioned earlier, deposit growth has been great since we came to Dartmouth back in 2007. But to coincide with that, loan growth really surpassed all our expectations for the area. We presently service over $200 million in residential and commercial loans in the South Coast area. That's a phenomenal achievement in just under 10 years. Hopefully, when you drive by on 195, and I know you all do, you see our billboard out there. And can I see a raise of hands? Who's seen the billboard out there? Well, that's pretty good, because what that billboard states, and we're very proud of it, is that Bristol County Savings Bank is the #1 small business lender in Bristol County. And I'm proud to say we've been that for the last 5 years straight. And we're really looking forward with the opening of the branch here so we can continue that tradition and continue to brag that we are the #1 small business lender in Bristol County. I would now like to, as Pat mentioned, introduce our staff that's going to be working down in this area. Many of you people already know our staff as they volunteer and they're on the boards of 23 different organizations in the South Coast. And that's not including their board time, what they do in their spare time, which is volunteer for many of them that I'm not even going to speak about today. So we are really committed to this area. So With that said, on the retail side, and I know I'm up and down on this, so it's on the retail side, Nancy Cabral, who's been a branch manager down in the area, unfortunately for another bank, recently joined us. She's been working in the New Bedford area for 10 years, Nancy. She will be heading up the branch here, but she also volunteers for Gifts to Give, Junior Achievement, and the Global Learning School, all down in this area. Dave Banderas, who will also be joining us on the third floor of the office here, is the Vice President and Regional Manager of the retail for the South Coast. He also volunteers for the New Bedford United Way and is on the board of Downtown New Bedford, Inc. David? As far as residential lending is concerned, Nelson Braga is here today. Nelson? Senior Vice President of the bank. He's involved with the New Bedford Fall River Housing Partnership, and we're actually at this point interviewing for a mortgage originator to sit right in this office to take mortgage applications. So hopefully somebody in the crowd has that experience. We'll give you a phone number later. Just give us a call. As far as our commercial lending team is concerned, it's going to be led up by Pete Selly, Senior Vice President of Commercial Lending. Pete was born, raised, and still lives in New Bedford. He's on the board of the Buttonwood Park Zoo, the Economic Development Council, and a number of other organizations down here, and I can prove that because I don't think he's ever in work, so he's telling me he's down here doing something. Mike Patico, also a Vice President in Commercial Lending. Michael? Mike will be on the third floor here. He's the Chairman of Junior Achievement of Southeastern Massachusetts, and he's on the board of the South Coast Business Alliance. Jeff Paglialuca, who couldn't make it here today. Another recent hire. Jeff's worked in the New Bedford market for over 10 years in commercial lending, just joined the bank. Somehow he got vacationed by just joining. I can't figure that one out either, but he couldn't make it here today. Jeff's on the board of the New Bedford Chamber, Whale, Team NOAA, and the New Bedford Economic Development Council Loan Committee. Just to round it out, the two lenders that we have in the Dartmouth area, which also serve this area, is Andy Springer, Vice President of Commercial Lending. Andy, in the back row. Andy's on the board of the Boys and Girls Club of Greater New Bedford. And last but not least, Jack Silva, who you saw walking by at 7 a.m. this morning. He was just getting home. He wasn't going to work. He was just getting home from last night. But he's on the board of the New Bedford Chamber and the Zeitzerian Theater. And if I had a golf ball and could hit it over that building, that's where he lives. So we know he's going to be here often. As you can see, our staff is heavily involved in the New Bedford community and the success of the downtown we really believe in. We cannot wait for this branch to open so we can truly become part of the downtown and help with the growth in this area. Thank you all for your business, and if you're not a customer of the bank, we hope you will be soon, and shame on you if you're not. Thank you very much. I'm remiss, I had one other thing to say. Tony, thank you for that trophy. It's the biggest trophy I've ever seen. I am so lucky I got a big office because it is as big as this stand, this podium.
Thank you, Lenny. Lenny was one of the other naggers because Lenny and his team have made great inroads with the fishing industry right across the street. And one particular customer we landed about a year and a half ago, and his one thing that he wanted from us was to have a branch in the downtown. Lenny said, "Don't worry, we'll have one within a few months." So here we are, 18 months later, and you can finally tell him, Lenny, we're here. Next, I would like to introduce our Executive Vice President and Community Relations Officer, Michelle Roberts, who will also introduce our speaker. But just one quick story, if I could. All right. As you know, the bank has been around since 1846. Here it is right here. This particular poster right up here. Back then, a few local farmers in the Taunton area and a few local small business owners got together, came up with $25,000 of their own money, and started Bristol County Savings Bank. Why? Because they couldn't even get through the front door of the larger commercial banks that were around at the time. Hard to believe that that bank that started with $25,000 of just a few people that got together mutually and shared their own savings so they could help the others that were having similar issues is now turned into a $2 billion bank that is throughout Bristol County throughout Bristol County. Over the years, the bank has got involved in many community-oriented projects and organizations, and that's what Michelle's going to talk about. One of the things that we got involved with up in Taunton is we formed a business improvement district, and the bank was very instrumental with the formation of that. In fact, I was one of the original members of the board of directors, and I still sit on that board. And the best move that the BID ever made was hiring our first executive director, Terry Burnett. A few years later, as I mentioned, I was asked to be on the Mayor's Regeneration Committee and trying to bring economic development into the downtown area. So when Terry announced that she was leaving Taunton and coming to New Bedford, I had to practice my faces. So when I was at the BID meeting, I was, but when I came down to the Regeneration Committee, I was like, Terry I've been known Terry for I don't know how many years, but a long time. And I'm glad that she's here this morning and will be able to talk a little bit on our behalf and what we're trying to do as a community partner here in the city of New Bedford. So with that, Michelle, I probably took some of your thunder, but Michelle Roberts.
Well, thank you. That's all I had to say. So I hope, thank you, Pat. He mentioned earlier, Mr. Murray mentioned earlier that we're a mutual bank, which means we have no stockholders. And so back in 1996, when the bank turned 150 years old, our board of directors decided that we should start the charitable foundation, the Bristol County Savings Charitable Foundation. And back then we didn't realize how big this was going to get and how widespread it was going to get. But today, I'll just stand over here. Today, we've contributed almost $18 million back into our local communities. And with $4 million of that going right here in the greater New Bedford area. So we're really happy that we've been able to do that. I'm looking out, I'm seeing all these faces of organizations that we've worked with over the years. And really, banking, just like any other business, it's all about relationships. It's all about building relationships with people. And we've been able to really build some significant relationships. James, you broke my heart. I'm happy for you, but we're really going to miss you. The Whaling Museum, Michelle, we've had a great working relationship, and even though we haven't physically had a branch or a location here, we've been involved in a lot of the projects that have gone on in downtown New Bedford, and we're really proud of that. The Whaling Museum, the new building is spectacular. It came out wonderful. Rosemary from where's Rosemary? Oh, right here, from the Zeitarian. We're so happy to be involved with you, and I can tell you, when you have your shows, it's really hard to get a seat at a restaurant in downtown New Bedford, so you've done a tremendous job with that. And Laura, I can't thank you enough. You were so helpful in this process. I can't tell you, you helped us through, you told us what we needed to do, and we got it done. So thank you very much. Richard, I remember when you put the hotel over there, and again, I still can't get a room there either, so I don't know. I seem to have no pull. But I'm just looking around at the faces, and it's pretty amazing the relationships that we've built and the projects that we've been involved with. Lenny mentioned volunteers and the volunteers that we have in local community organizations. I just want to give you a total number of almost 1,200 hours we put in last year in volunteering in downtown, in the greater New Bedford area. So we're definitely committed. We're committed to being here and committed to New Bedford. So with that, another organization, Pat stole my thunder a little bit, but that's okay. Another organization that we've been really happy to partner with. As Pat mentioned, we've known Terry a while, and we've done some work in the Taunton area with her. But down in New Bedford, we were so happy to just have the sort of the ribbon, the official groundbreaking for the Co-Creative Center. We were involved with the Siemens Bethel and the Mariners Home, and that was so great to see that project come to fruition. It turned out spectacular. If you haven't seen it, please go take a look. It's amazing. And we're working on a project with the Howland House as well right now. So Terry's been a great partner, and as a result, the co-creative, when she came to us and talked to us about this project, aside from our grants and the grant awards that we make during the year, we've also started a new program where we can make equity investments into local projects that deal with issues of affordable housing, startups, job creation, those types of things. So Terry came to us with a project that had all three. So it was a no-brainer, and we were so happy to be involved. So at this point, I would love to be able to announce that we will be making a $250,000 contribution to the Co-Creative Center in the form of an equity investment. So Terry, would you come on up? I'm going to turn it over to Terry, and she can tell you more about the project.
Wow, that's a big, big, big check. And thank you so much. First, I just am thrilled that Bristol County Savings Bank is in one of the most important buildings in the city. And Whale has a history in the building. I wasn't with Whale during that time, but our board president, Andy Burns, was. I know Derek and Ann Laura were involved. Of course, the mayor. So what a home for you. It's really fantastic. And you're like half a block from us, so that's great. And I'm sure all the nonprofits in the city are thrilled that you have an office here, because you provide so much support to us and have helped make us grow and build buildings. And I know Rosemary's here, and the Z, and the Whaling Museum, so there's countless others. So thank you so much. Catherine Duff and the Historical Commission and Diana Henry's here did a wonderful job with sensitive design, and this was not an easy thing. And Laura assisting with that, and I think the design for the building came out very appropriate for the historic district. I have a long history with these guys, and going back 15 years, I think, maybe more. They came in on a big mill project, and I was with the Community Development Corporation. It was our first project. We decided to do a $16 million mill renovation, mixed use, and I was pretty overwhelmed with it, and these guys stepped in with financing for it, and it's a success because of their team. And then countless other projects, foreclosure renovations in Taunton, a project very similar to the Co-Creative Center, and using very innovative financing along the way. And that's not easy for a community bank. So with our projects in the city, Bristol County Savings Bank, I asked them if they would be interested in a federal historic tax credit deal. And small deals, the Port Society's project, and Howland House. And the team stepped up and they did it. How many conference calls did we have? I think there were 10 attorneys on at one point. It took about 6 months or maybe more. And now this equity program, that's brand new, nobody's doing it. And the creativity of a community bank is outstanding. Rich Farmer's here, and he goes into some of the foreclosures that they're helping restore in the city, and these things are in awful, awful condition. Ann and Diana know that, and Catherine. And he just says, sure, we'll do that. I mean, they're just deplorable. And now looking at 149 Allen Street, it's fully restored. It looks gorgeous. We couldn't have done it without the bank. So we're thrilled, and we have the best bank right in our downtown now. So thank you.
That concludes our speaking portion of this morning. Just one other thing, when Michelle was talking about the money that we give out, we don't pretend that we can sit up in Taunton and think of what the needs are of in the greater New Bedford area. Part of Michelle's job, and she has the best job in the entire bank, is to get out and get involved. She works with our local lenders. We meet with the mayor year after year. We meet with the superintendent of schools, and we really try to figure out, from a local perspective, what the greatest needs are and how Bristol County Savings Bank can help. We bring that back to our foundation's advisory committee, and the advisory committee that decides who gets what here in the greater New Bedford area are made up of all local people, and they have the final say. We don't get a vote. We don't get a vote. We can twist a few arms, but we don't have a vote in the end. So I want to thank a couple of people, and they might have just stepped away, that are here this morning as well, that have been involved in that process, and that's Maureen Sylvia Armstrong, as well as Richard LaFrance. So thank you very, very much for that partnership and help as well. I'm sorry, and we've already recognized Corrine as a cooperator, but Corrine is part of that process as well. With that being said, we're going to have a ceremonial groundbreaking, and we got a nice pile of dirt over here. And I'd like to invite the mayor, Dennis Kelly, Len Sullivan, Pete Selly, Dave Medeiros, Nancy Cabral, Michael Patico, and any elected official to come on up and help us break ground for our new branch. Following that, we will go inside Carmine's and have a very small reception as well.